Incredible turnaround. After 20 seconds of shock, cop discovers heroic past of woman he shot. Officer Mike Thompson had always believed he was the protector of his close-knit community in Maplewood. He felt that pride swell as he stood among the families at the annual Harvest Festival. Laughter filled the air, mingling with the rustle of dry leaves and the savory scent of caramel apples. But beneath the festive surface, an undercurrent of tension brewed, whispers of discontent festered like a wound. That evening, while children jumped in piles of hay, chaos erupted. A call came through the radio, a break-in, and a suspect was on the run. Mike's heart raced as he darted through the festival crowd. Adrenaline blinded him, turning the vibrant scene gray. He spotted a figure darting into the shadows. In a split second, a gun fired a shocking sound cutting through the throngs of joy. As the echoes faded, time froze. Mike's heart dropped as he blinked down to see Sarah Johnson crumpled on the ground. A local single mother, now bloodied and gasping for air. Panic seized the festival, parents snatched their children, eyes wide with fear. Gasps and cries mingled with the rustling leaves above, giving a haunting soundtrack to the eye of the storm. As Mike knelt beside her, his composure shattered. "What have I done?" he choked, the weight of his badge suddenly feeling like a millstone. Memories flooded his mind, his father's firm hand guiding him through ethics, his mother's gentle whispers about justice. None of that prepared him for this night. In the days following the incident, Mike was besieged by guilt and confusion. As Sarah lay in a hospital bed, he learned more about her. She was a single mother, fighting to keep her teenage son on the right path while tending to her ailing father, a war hero. The thought hit Mike like a punch to the gut. A woman fighting against the world, and he brought her pain. It was like a cloud darkening the blue skies he once took for granted. Amid the murmurs of support for him, others demanded justice for Sarah. The town was a pressure cooker, families split down the middle. Mike was left trapped in the whirlwind. The very badge that once represented honor now weighed heavily as he faced the community he loved. Everywhere he looked, he saw the fight he inadvertently ignited. Families arguing, neighbors divided, friendships fraying. The town's whispered prejudices against those struggling to make ends meet became painfully clear. The Mount Rushmore of his childhood ideals was crumbling before his eyes, leaving only the jagged edges behind. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. As town hall loomed, anticipation thickened the air. Mike stood before the microphone, heart hammering against his chest. As he scanned the faces in the crowd, tension crackled like electricity. They were all looking at him, the protector who had become the question mark. Then, just as he began to gather his thoughts, a hush fell over the room, a collective breath held in anticipation as rumors suggested Sarah would rise from her hospital bed. The gravity of the moment forced him to confront a question bigger than his own guilt. Would he find the courage to share his truth? Or was it the time for Maplewood to finally face its own hidden struggles? The room remained silent, waiting for a resolution. Would they see not just the man with the badge or the victim before them, but the shared humanity that made them all vulnerable? The hush settled over the town hall like thick fog, every eye fixed on Mike. He could feel every heart, every pulse urging him forward. With trembling hands, he reached for the microphone, the cool metal feeling foreign against his skin. "Thank you for gathering here tonight," he began, his voice wavering slightly. "I know there's anger, fear, confusion. And you're right to feel that way." He held up his hands, palms outward, as if trying to absorb the weight of their emotions. "I've felt it too. More than you can imagine." A few murmurs rose from the crowd, questioning, unsure. People leaned in, straining to hear over the silence that felt heavy with unspoken accusations. Mike took a breath, the air thick with anxiety. On that fateful night, I became something I never wanted to be. I didn't just fail to protect, I hurt someone fighting to keep their family together. The memories of Sarah flashed before him, her son's hopeful eyes, her father's decorated history. Sarah Johnson is not just a name in a report to me. She is a courageous woman doing her best in a world that constantly tests her strength. Some in the audience shifted uncomfortably, glancing at each other. I understand why you're turning on me, he pressed on, desperation edging his tone. Because I turned on her. I fired my weapon, I made the split-second choice that changed everything. This isn't just about me, though this is about us. He glanced at the back of the room, recalling late-night discussions with his friends who brushed off the struggles of single parents, claiming they just needed to try harder. He could almost hear their laughter, echoing like ghosts of a simpler time. Maplewood is a place I've always known as safe, but I see now that safety can be a privilege, and our understanding of struggle is narrow. His mind raced, thinking of the barriers still built around the town, the prejudices like walls that kept them from connecting. We can all be better. We can help one another stand up and not just be witness but champion each other. The room began to stir, voices slipping through the cracks of tension. A woman in the front cried out, "What do we do then? How do we fix this?" In that moment, Mike felt a flicker of hope break through his storm of guilt. We listen, we acknowledge each other's stories, we build a bridge where there are only barriers. It's not easy, and I know I've made it harder by what I've done. But we can heal as a community. More voices joined in, some expressing their hurt. Others questioned how they could help Sarah. It was a moment that echoed with possibilities. The conversation ignited, and suddenly, there was a shared purpose blossoming among them, seeds of change planting themselves into the cracked town soil, but just as encouragement filled the room, the door swung open. Sarah's son, Jason, stood wide-eyed, his face pale in the fluorescent light. "My mom, she's awake," he gasped, breathless. The atmosphere shifted again, tension morphing into a storm of uncertainty mixed with hope. The crowd fell silent once more. Eyes turned to Mike, a growing sense of dread mingling with anticipation. He was about to face the mother he'd put in harm's way. The words he had prepared suddenly felt inadequate, almost futile. With a heavy heart, he whispered, "This is just the beginning." How would he approach Sarah? Would she even want to see him after what he had done? As he stepped away from the microphone, a new wave of nervous energy surged through him. All eyes were now on the entrance, waiting anxiously for the unfolding reunion that would test not just their community's strength but Mike's resolve to right a terrible wrong. The silence felt like a loaded gun, and Mike couldn't shake the tremor in his fingers. As Jason rushed in, breaths gulped in unison throughout the town hall, all eyes glued to the lanky boy who had spun everyone's focus so abruptly. A boy, whose silence had borne the weight of worry and heartbreak. How could Mike face what he had done? "Is she okay?" a voice broke through the murmur, filled with trepidation. The question hung thick in the air, a collective longing for reassurance. Mike absorbed the boy's expression, eyes wide and innocent yet stormed with confusion. A deep breath cascaded through him, as if he were preparing for a plunge into uncharted waters. "We have to go to her," he declared, the determination emerging, battling through his fear. He turned to the crowd gathered around him. "It's a chance for us to show that we can do better for her and for this community." The energy shifted. People began grabbing their coats and murmuring reassurances to one another. Hope knitted itself into hearts that were raw and bleeding. Mike could see it, a longing to gather around Sarah, to lift her spirit, and to face their own shared sorrow. As they moved toward the exit, Jason led the way, determination framing his features. The town hall that had once felt isolating began to feel more like a collective family, united in this unexpected moment. A group of murmurs formed behind Mike, people softly discussing how they could support Sarah once they reached the hospital. Maybe flowers? Or food? Someone suggested anxiously. "No, she could use something personal. Something that reminds her she's loved," came another voice. Mike felt a warm surge of camaraderie wash over the group, which gathered more energy with each step toward the hospital. They were not just there to offer apologies, they were there to show their connection, to share stories, to remind each other of the bonds that tied them to one another even in the darkest of days. When they arrived, the hospital loomed like a fortress, its stark white walls reflecting the tiny shards of moonlight, casting it in an otherworldly glow. The crowd hesitated at the entrance, still holding Jason's nervous gaze as he fought the urge to bolt. "You'll be okay, Jason," Mike said gently, resting a reassuring hand on his shoulder. "Just focus on your mom. She needs you." Jason nodded, though uncertainty shimmered behind his young eyes. He pushed through the glass doors, and those who followed him fell into a careful line, whispers of encouragement fluttering around them like nervous butterflies. They moved through the sterile halls, past nurses and doctors who glanced up with questioning looks. Mike felt the weight of the tension growing heavier until it felt suffocating, a palpable reminder of the gravity of what they were walking into. Finally, they reached her room. The door stood ajar, a small glass window framing the space, revealing a soft light inside. The moment stretched as Jason took a deep breath, his small frame quaking as he pushed the door open wider. Inside, the sight of Sarah lay fragile on the bed, her skin pale, the slow beep of the heart monitor punctuating the air. The machine was a rhythm, a reminder that she was still there, still fighting. Jason stepped inside first, hesitation melting away. "Mom," he croaked, his voice thick with raw emotion. Sarah turned her head, a flicker of recognition sparking in her weary eyes. At that moment, everything fell away, the anger, the fear, and Mike's guilt all washed away in the swell of hope blossoming in the faint light. But then, as Mike hovered in the doorway, both terrified and desperate for forgiveness, Jason's quiet plea cut through the air, snapping everyone back to the reality of the situation, a moment that could change everything again. "Can you forgive him, Mom?" All eyes shot to Sarah, whose gaze met Mike's with an intensity that held the weight of all their collective burdens. What would she say, and how would it change the course of this fragile moment? Mike felt his heart race as the question hung in the air. Would it shatter them, or could it be the start of true healing? The silence in the room was deafening, or so it felt to Mike. It clutched at his chest like a vice, squeezing the breath from his lungs. Jason stood at the edge of the bed, his small figure radiating a fragile determination. The seconds dragged on, each one heavier than the last. Sarah's gaze flickered between Jason and Mike, and with each heartbeat, the tension spiraled. She began, her voice barely a whisper, laced with both confusion and pain. "I'm so tired." Her words hung in the air, fragile and vulnerable, like a delicate spider's web trembling in the wind. Mike's pulse quickened, but he couldn't let fear drown him. He stepped closer, crossing the threshold of the room, uncertain yet desperate. "Sarah, but she raised a hand, silencing him. The movement was weak, yet it contained a strength that sent shivers down Mike's spine. "Jason, you know I love you, right?" Each word was a struggle, but her intention was clear. Jason's eyes filled with tears, but he nodded vigorously, his small face shimmering with emotion. "I love you too, Mom. I don't understand." His voice broke, and he took a shaky step closer. "Can't we just go back to how it was before?" Sarah's eyes glistened with unshed tears, and for a moment, Mike thought she might push away the pain that surrounded them, just for a flicker of time. Things change, sweetheart. They can't always go back. But forgiveness, it can help us move forward." Jason's confusion morphed into despair. "But can you forgive him?" he cried, his voice full of an innocence that sent a wave of guilt crashing over Mike. The question echoed inside Sarah's fragile room like a gunshot, ricocheting off the walls. Mike felt as if the very air had gone still, waiting, bated breath hanging in the balance. He wanted to look away, to disappear, but something in Sarah's expression held him captive. Her tears fell, and they seemed to inherit the weight of every wrong turn they had ever made. Finally, a tremor of resolution flared in Sarah's eyes, and she looked at Mike, penetrating to the core of him. "You hurt me, Mike. You hurt all of us." The word struck him like a physical force, painful yet piercingly honest. But I can't let anger consume me. I have to try. The room held its breath along with Mike as Sarah's voice softened, painting her vulnerability in stark relief. I forgive you. As the words blossomed like a fragile flower breaking through winter's grip, a wave of relief crashed over the room. It wasn't a solution or a cure-all, but it was a beginning, a bridge over a chasm that had threatened to devour them all. The collective tension that had held the group in a vice grip began to uncoil, hope threading through the fragile fabric of fear and sorrow. Mama! Jason rushed forward, enveloping his mother's frail form in a tender embrace, the kind that could mend the deepest of wounds. The intimacy showcased the purest love, a balm for all their wounds. Mike stood there, tears pricking at the corners of his eyes. It was more than he had dared hope for. But he also knew that true healing would require more than just words. It demanded commitment, effort, and time. The road ahead would be steep, fraught with the remnants of past mistakes. As the moment tenderly unfolded, Mike felt a whisper of a question forming in the pit of his stomach, a realization that while forgiveness had just begun, their real struggle lay ahead. What comes next? He thought, the weight of their shared history settling heavily on him. Would Sarah's forgiveness be enough to bind the wounds of their calamitous past, or was this only the precipice of an even more challenging journey towards healing? In the quiet of the moment, a fragile peace had settled, yet an undercurrent of anxiety still tugged at Mike's heart. He watched as Sarah and Jason slowly pulled away from each other, still holding hands, their gazes locked in a shared understanding. There was comfort in their connection, a flicker of new beginnings shining through the lingering darkness. I'm proud of you, Mom, Jason finally said, his voice steadying. For saying that. Sarah managed a small smile, one that crinkled the corners of her eyes despite the lingering sadness. It was a smile illumined by something akin to hope, but Mike couldn't shake the feeling that it was a mere spark in a room still dimmed by shadows of the past. Do you two think we should talk about what's next? He ventured cautiously, not wanting to disrupt the fragile truce. With a shallow breath, Sarah nodded. Yes. We can't avoid it. We have to face the truth together. Jason looked between them, uncertainty coating his small brows. What truth? That I'm still healing, Sarah said slowly. This isn't just something that disappears. Forgiveness doesn't mean it's easy, or that all the hurt has gone away. We need to talk about how to rebuild. Mike's throat tightened. He knew the gravity of what she was saying. He wanted to be that person, to help them navigate this rocky path back to each other. I want that too. I'll do everything I can to support you both, to make things better. I just don't want to feel lost, Jason interrupted, his voice wavering. It was a plea, raw and wide-eyed. I want my family back. The boy's vulnerability hit Mike hard. He felt a swell of emotion that nearly overwhelmed him. It was a reminder of the innocence caught in the crossfire of adult mistakes. We're all a little lost right now. But lost doesn't mean we can't find our way back, Jason. With newfound resolve, Mike turned to Sarah. How do we start? Sarah took a moment, collecting her thoughts. We start small. We can share our feelings, no matter how messy they may seem. We each have to be honest about our pain. And maybe we can try to remember our good times. Jason shifted on his feet, absorbing her words. Okay, I can do that. I want to remember the good times. His voice was tinged with determination as he wiped away a stray tear. A warmth spread through the room, but Mike felt a chill at the edges of it. The memories were bittersweet. He longed for simpler days but feared the shadows that loomed behind each recollection. Let us do this together, he urged quietly. One by one, they began to share stories of laughter, moments of silliness, the ordinary rituals of family life that had once filled their home with warmth. As they spoke, Mike felt the weight of the past lifting, if only just a little. It felt exhilarating, but the journey forward took on a different texture. Healing, he was finding, was not linear, yet, with every memory they shared, a common thread emerged: love. Love that had been tested, yes, but love nonetheless. It glimmered in the gaps of their narratives, lighting the way ahead with a flicker of hope, but just as things felt like they might settle, Jason stilled, his small face hardening. What if we can't go back to how things were? What if this is it? His words pierced the moment, and Mike felt his heart drop. Would they ever really be whole again? As silence enveloped them once more, Mike realized they were standing on the edge of an uncertain future, teetering dangerously close to the unknown. Could they accept the new reality and build something even stronger? The question echoed in his mind, heavy yet hopeful, waiting for an answer that felt just out of reach. As he held his breath, the weight of what lay ahead gathered like a storm cloud on the horizon. The air grew thick with silence, the kind that wraps around you like a weighted blanket. Mike glanced at Sarah, who was biting her lower lip, and then at Jason, whose gaze had dropped to the floor. They were standing on shifting sand, each trying to find their balance. Maybe we don't have to go back, Mike said finally, his voice finding strength in the midst of doubt. What if we create something new? The words hung in the air, a fragile promise waiting to take root. Jason looked up, his eyes searching Mike's. What do you mean? His voice was hesitant but curious, just like the flicker of hope that had sparked earlier. Maybe instead of trying to fit into what was, we can build something that reflects who we are now, Mike suggested, feeling an electric charge of possibility. A family that goes beyond what we lost, the mistakes and all that hurt us. A fresh start. Sarah's forehead flickered with intrigue, her expression softening as she considered his thoughts. A fresh start, she repeated quietly, as though tasting the phrase. A glimmer of hope danced in Jason's eyes. So, we can still be a family, just different. Exactly. Mike exclaimed, his heart racing. Different doesn't mean broken. It means we're evolving. We can hold on to those sweet memories while carving out our new path. It's about rediscovering each other in this new light. Sarah nodded, a gentle smile spreading across her face. That sounds nice. It will be challenging, but I want to try. Jason's expression brightened, but concern still lingered in his features. But what if we mess it up again? Messing up is part of growing, Mike replied, leaning closer to both of them. It's okay to wobble before you walk. We just need to keep talking. Keep sharing. The warmth in the room shifted again, expanding to fill the spaces where fear had crept in before. Sarah took a deep breath, her eyes sparkling with renewed resolve. Let us start right now. What do we want our family to look like moving forward? Jason, catching the spark, took a moment. I want us to laugh again. I want us to play board games like we used to. He shot a hopeful glance at Sarah. And maybe we could make pizza together. That was fun. Yes. And stay up late to watch movies, Sarah added, her enthusiasm infectious. Let us bring back those little traditions. Mike felt the storm clouds retreat, replaced by the sun peeking through, illuminating the space around them. With each idea that surfaced, the shadows of the past lifted, giving way to a vision of possibility and unity, but in the midst of their excitement, an unsettling thought began to creep back into Mike's mind. What if reality hit harder than their dreams? What if the old wounds resurfaced during their journey? As if sensing his hesitation, Jason reached for his mother's hand once more, squeezing it gently. We can do this, right? We won't give up. Feeling the warmth of his son's faith, Mike nodded, swallowing the fear that had taken hold of him. Absolutely. Together, we're stronger. We face whatever comes our way as a family. Their laughter and shared hopes filled the room, breaking through the remnants of silence. Yet, deep down, Mike harbored a question that hung heavily in the air. Would this newfound determination hold when faced with the challenges lurking just beyond their horizon? As they shared stories and dreams, the time seemed to slip away, and with it, the promise of something greater began to stitch their hearts together. Little did they know, a test awaited them, a moment that could either cement this path forward or pull them apart once again. As the sun dipped low, streaking the sky with shades of orange and pink. The atmosphere in their living room shifted into something softer, almost tender. Mike, Sarah, and Jason began to craft pictures of their future with every laugh and shared memory. It was as if they were stitching together a new tapestry from the frayed edges of their past. "I remember the time we tried to bake cookies and ended up with that burnt mess," Jason chuckled, and the sound filled the air, a beautiful punctuation mark to the hope blooming around them. "Oh, I remember that." Sarah laughed. "You said they tasted like charcoal and then insisted on eating a whole plate anyway." The laughter that erupted felt like sunlight breaking through clouds. "No one cared about the mess, just that we were together," Mike added, his voice steady. "Those moments are what made us a family." "Yeah," Jason nodded, his smile wide. "Maybe that's what we can build on, making memories that matter, even if they're imperfect." Their hearts beat faster as they revisited small moments that had brought them joy. They talked and dreamed until the room felt alive with their visions, but somewhere beneath the laughter, the uncertainty lingered. Time seemed to blur, and blissful plans shared created a tempting escape from the nagging fears lurking in the shadows. Yet as night fell and shadows stretched across the room, Mike couldn't shake the weight in his chest. Their conversations had built a fragile fortress of hope, but reality could just as easily shatter it. Was it enough? Could they truly leave the past behind? Just then, Jason's hand slid across the table, reaching for his father's. "Dad, what if we still talk to each other about everything? Like you said, keep sharing, right?" Mike felt his breath hitch. The sincerity in his son's eyes carved away at his apprehensions. "That's a great idea, buddy. We can set aside time each week to check in, see how we're feeling. It's important to keep those lines open." "Yeah, I want to be honest with you guys," Jason added, his voice steady. "Even if it's hard." The three shared a moment of understanding, a collective sigh that lifted the tension. It was a silent agreement, a pact in which they would strive to be vulnerable with one another, moving forward like a trio against the world. A sudden rush of energy interrupted their bonding moment as Mike's phone buzzed to life across the table. He hesitated before diving for it, instinctively sensing something beyond the usual notifications. When he glanced at the screen, a chill coursed through him. It was a text from an unknown number, but the message was unmistakable. "I know what you did. I want to stay quiet much longer." The words felt like icy fingers gripping his heart. Anxiety spiked as he exchanged glances with Sarah and Jason, who sensed the shift in energy. The comforting bubble they'd created quickly deflated. "What's wrong?" Jason asked, concern etching deep lines across his youthful features. Mike struggled to find his voice, thick emotions tangling in his throat. "It's nothing, just a prank, I think." "I don't like that look, Dad," Jason pressed, his voice small but insistent. As Sarah leaned closer, her eyes searching Mike's for the truth, he realized they were standing not just on shifting sand anymore, but on unpredictable ground. Shadows were closing in, threatening to rise from what he desperately wanted to leave behind. "Maybe it isn't just a prank," Mike finally uttered, feeling the weight of the secret now pressing down on him. "Then what is it?" Sarah's voice quivered slightly. "I don't know, but we might need to prepare for whatever is coming." As uncertainty flooded the room, their dreams felt fragile once again. And in that moment, the test they had hoped to avoid was knocking at their door. Would they emerge stronger from the storm, or would this wave of the past swallow them whole? Mike could feel the weight of his words sinking in, each syllable hanging heavy in the air. The tension wrapped around them like a thick fog. It was suffocating. He glanced at Sarah and saw the worry etched on her face. Jason's brows furrowed deeper, the innocent joy of earlier now replaced with confusion and fear. "I don't want to talk about this right now," Jason finally said, pulling his hand back. Mike watched as his son's expression shifted, from trust to uncertainty. It stung more than he expected. "Jason, please." "No, Dad. If it's something serious, I want to know. We talked about being honest." There was a small spark of defiance in his voice, and Mike felt a pang of pride mixed with concern. Jason was stronger than he seemed, but the burden of the unknown was starting to show on his face. "Let us just sit with it for a moment," Sarah suggested, her voice softer now. She reached for Jason, and he allowed her to pull him close. They both turned to Mike, the air different now, charged with anxiety. With a trembling hand, Mike opened the message again, staring at the stark screen, feeling a sense of dread wrap around his heart. What if we can't face what's coming? He thought. Maybe it's nothing, he said aloud, trying to harness calm he didn't feel. Maybe it's just someone trying to scare us. Sarah shook her head. We know better. The things we've gone through, we can't ignore our pasts. She looked at him, her eyes filled with both love and fear. We need to confront it, all of it. Do you think it's connected? Mike felt a chill creep down his spine. They had worked so hard to move on, carefully piecing together their lives, but the idea that someone was reaching out from the past sent adrenaline coursing through him. Jason leaned in, his voice a whisper, "I have a bad feeling about this." His expression mirrored the fears swirling inside Mike, the fear of failure, of losing this fragile family they had rebuilt. What if they really know something? In that moment, Mike could see the shadows around them clear as day, could see the truth behind the message. A gnawing realization settled into his gut. There were secrets they buried, decisions made in haste, and the consequences were rising like a tide. How long could they keep running from the past? "I think we need to figure out who sent the message," Mike finally said, determination slicing through his fears. He pulled his phone closer, fingers trembling as he considered what was next. Sarah's resolve hardened. "Yes, just like we agreed. Together. What if we're not ready?" Jason asked, worry creeping into his tone again, vulnerability close to the surface. Mike took a deep breath, feeling the gravity of the moment. "We'll never be ready if we don't start. And we're stronger together, remember? Whatever happens, we'll face it head on." Jason nodded slowly, and Sarah squeezed his hand. They had created a commitment to each other, it was time to put it to the test. "There's no turning back now," Mike said, his heart racing with a mix of fear and determination. They needed to uncover the truth, no matter how much it scared them. Just as he began to type a response, the phone buzzed again. Another message flashed on the screen. His heart dropped. "Just wait until I tell them everything." The room plunged back into silence, and Mike felt the darkness pressing in. Who were they up against, and how could this end? Was it too late to change course, or was the storm just beginning? The room felt stifling as Mike stared at the flickering screen. His breath hitched in his throat. Sarah's fingers trembled in Jason's grip, and for a moment, they were all lost in their own thoughts, contemplating the unseen enemy that lay in wait, ready to strike. "Who is they?" Jason finally broke the suffocating silence, his voice trembling. "Is it someone we know?" Mike's mind raced through a myriad of possibilities. Old faces flashed, people from their past lives, a web of tangled histories spinning around them like a sinister snare. He started, but the words caught, stuck in a place between fear and disbelief. "We can't jump to conclusions," Sarah said, attempting to ground them. Her voice steadied, but her eyes shone with unshed tears. "Let us think this through. We need a plan." "A plan?" Mike shook his head, trying to stem the tide. "How do we plan against something we can't identify?" Jason's brows knit tighter as he considered. "What if we just ignore it? It could be a prank." Mike felt a wave of frustration wash over him. "We've ignored enough. It's always been there, Jason. The past doesn't just go away." He paced the small living room, restless energy bubbling within him. "I wish it could." Jason's voice was a whisper, hinting at a deeper fear of the unknown, a fear they were all struggling to articulate. "No," Sarah interjected, placing a hand on Jason's shoulder, grounding him. "Whatever happens, we face it as a family. It's the only way." As they stood together, Mike felt a flicker of hope begin to ignite in the darkness. They had survived worse. Each scar on their hearts represented a battle fought together. He looked at them, at Jason's wide, trusting eyes and Sarah's fierce determination. Then let us start with this message. We have to reply. What if they want to meet? Jason asked, and with that, the weight of the situation settled even heavier in the room. It felt like a trap waiting to ensnare them. We need to find out what they know, Sarah said, her voice firm, pushing through Mike's hesitations. It's time to take control of our story. With renewed determination, Mike typed a simple message: Who are you? What do you want? Then, he hit send and felt a wave of nausea crash over him. The air crackled with tension as they waited. Please be careful. Jason's voice was thin, barely above a whisper. In an instant, a new message popped up: You have no idea what's coming. You think you've left your past behind, but it's just getting started. A chill ran down Mike's spine. The implication in the words was clear: this was personal. Somebody wanted to play. Fear clawed at his mind, but panic wouldn't solve anything. Do you think it's about my mom? Jason's voice trembled. His mother's passing had remained a wound too deep for words so often. Uncertainty rippled through Mike as he encountered the unthinkable. I don't know, buddy. Sarah stepped closer, her hand resting on Jason's back. Whatever it is, we will face it together. We cannot let this destroy us again. Suddenly, Jason straightened, a spark igniting in his eyes. What if we find out who this person is? We can stop them. Mike nodded, feeling the resolve spreading through him. You're right. Let us track them. We'll start with the number. We can find out who it belongs to. But as they dove into research, silence fell again, heavy with dread. The question loomed: what if the shadows were deeper than they anticipated? The phone buzzed again, a rapid series of pings that set their hearts racing. This time, Mike didn't just look, he could feel every pulse echoing like a war drum in his ears. I know where you live and everything you don't want me to know. Time seemed to freeze as the weight of those words pressed down on them. They had crossed a threshold, and there was no turning back now. What secrets lay ahead? What doors would they have to force open? As they huddled closer together, a single thought crept in: this battle would require more than just strength. It would demand trust. And when trust was tested, would they hold strong? The room felt electric with possibility. And fear: a storm brewing too close to shore. The tension in the room stood thick as molasses, stretching time like a taut string ready to snap. Mike, Sarah, and Jason, huddled together, felt the world outside recede, swallowed whole by the shadows creeping toward them. The messages on the phone were haunting, echoes of a past better left buried. Jason's hand trembled in Sarah's grasp, his youthful fear raw and palpable. What if they really do know everything? He whispered, his voice small. Mike felt the heat of responsibility pulse in his veins. We'll face it head on, just like we promised. His words rang with determination, though doubt threatened to seep in, challenging the resolve he'd fought so hard to build. Sarah's eyes flickered with understanding. We'll need a plan. We can't let fear dictate our actions. The firmness in her voice grounded them, anchoring their shared anxieties in the face of a growing storm. The phone buzzed once more, and Mike's heart raced, every sound felt magnified, every second elongated. What if this is a joke? He muttered, glancing at Jason, who looked as if he might bolt. But deep down, they all sensed this was more than playful taunting. Even if it is, we can't take the chance, Sarah reminded him, her gaze burning with conviction. We cannot let this go unanswered. With an explosive energy, they formed a plan. Let us not only track the number, but document everything we've seen and know. We are a team fighting back. Their voices began to blend into a unified front, and the fragility they had felt dissipated into the air like fog before the sun. The trio dove into action, the tension sculpting their movement with purpose. In hushed voices, they shared their past, revealing secrets once hidden. Mike felt every word spoken was like a dagger cutting through the remnants of silence that had held them hostage. As they worked together in the living room, Jason pulled open a laptop, fingers flying across the keyboard. The warmth of his mother's hand on his back offered soothing comfort amidst the chaos that enveloped them. "I think I found something," he announced, voice trembling with excitement as he pointed at the screen. The hours flew by as they chased leads, unraveling a web slowly, meticulously, strengthening their bond through shared fears and revelations. Every discovery pushed them closer, allowing them to lean on one another, to be raw and honest about their past struggles. Then, just as hope flickered brighter, a new message appeared: "I see you're trying to dig. But be careful. I know how everything connects. You won't escape the truth." A chill shot through Mike. "They're taunting us now, it's not just about the messages anymore." He glanced at Sarah, whose face revealed a newfound determination. "That's the point," she stated. "They want to intimidate us and monitor our response. Let us not give them satisfaction." He nodded, a sharing spirit of defiance igniting between them. "We come together, or we fall apart. So we fight back. We go to the police tomorrow. We can't face this alone." Jason's voice, a mix of boyish courage and fear, trembled as he spoke. "What if they come after us first? What if we expose ourselves to more danger?" "Then we face it together," Sarah answered softly, wrapping her arms around Jason's small frame, grounding them both. "We can't step back now. We've already taken steps toward healing. We can outsmart whatever comes our way." That night, as they huddled around the laptop, a sense of purpose filled the room. They began drafting a plan to approach the police. Mike would recount his actions, not just as a police officer, but as a man willing to take responsibility. In that moment, time shifted again. They felt the storm pressing in, yet the connection between them glimmered like a lighthouse guiding them through fog. They shared stories, laughed despite the heavy heart pulling at them, memories they could fold into their new tapestry of hope. As dawn broke, the shadows outside seemed to wane, but uncertainty lingered like an echo in their home. With daylight creeping through the windows, Mike resolved himself whatever storm awaited them, they would face it together. Stronger than ever, they met with the police, sharing their fears and the harrowing details of the messages. Officer Thompson received them with sympathy, understanding the delicate balance of bravery and vulnerability they were exhibiting. "You're not alone in this," he reassured them. The path ahead would take no small amount of courage. But Mike, Sarah, and Jason understood that they were no longer fighting against the tide alone. They had weathered the storm, faced the shadows, and in doing so discovered that their family was more than just about past mistakes. It was about rebuilding, loving, and above all, trusting one another through every twist life threw their way. And just like the sun breaking forth after a storm, the horizons of their lives were illuminated again, rich with possibility and the promise of healing. Life would be messy, no doubt. But they would embrace it, one step at a time. Together. As they walked back into their sunlit living room, Jason looked up with tears of relief and newfound strength. "We can do this. We've come too far to turn back now." With hands clasped, united, they stepped into the next chapter of their life, ready to confront the world and embrace their journey head-on. As you wrap up this emotional and powerful story, remember, subscribe immediately to the channel to not miss the next exclusive stories. You need to subscribe now. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm, it makes a difference. Comment your reactions and feelings about the ending below. Share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation. Don't wait not even one more second to share. Your support means everything, and only true fans understand the importance of standing by the channel through these actions.